Today's video is brought to you by ablmerch.com. You're able to get all the hats I wear in the videos, plus a large selection of other hats, t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, and more, including the You Ain't Black shirt brought to you by Joe Biden through the link in the description box below. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Donald Trump ordering that houses of worship, including churches, mosques, synagogues, be reopened immediately nationwide. Now, whether the states are going to follow through with it, that remains to be seen. But I think there are some things that the federal government can do to ensure that this happens, like cutting off some funding. Because remember the whole thing about voting by mail, aka cheat by mail. He's like, hey, if y'all want to do the whole cheat by mail thing, send it every time Dick and Harry a mail-in ballot, you might not get that federal funding. So it could be a similar thing going on here with the churches. Now, before I go too deep into the story, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you'll see Trump in the White House at the press briefing area declaring that churches be reopened and that they are essential. After we get done with that, I'll talk about what he said. I'll give you my 2 cents, my deep detail analysis, and then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
At my direction, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is issuing guidance for communities of faith. I want to thank Dr. Redfield and the CDC for their work on this matter and all the other work they've been doing over the past, what now seems like a long period of time. Today, I'm identifying houses of worship, churches, synagogue, and mosques as essential places that provide essential services. Some governors have deemed liquor stores and abortion clinics as essential, but have left out churches and other houses of worship. It's not right. So I'm correcting this injustice and calling houses of worship essential. I call upon governors to allow our churches and places of worship to open right now. If there's any question, they're going to have to call me, but they're not going to be successful in that call. These are places that hold our society together and keep our people united. The people are demanding to go to church and synagogue, go to their mosque. Many millions of Americans embrace worship as an essential part of life. The ministers, pastors, rabbis, imams, and other faith leaders will make sure that their congregations are safe as they gather and pray. I know them well. They love their congregations. They love their people. They don't want anything bad to happen to them or to anybody else. The governors need to do the right thing and allow these very important, essential places of faith to open right now for this weekend. If they don't do it, I will override the governors. In America, we need more prayer, not less. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so you saw that, you heard that. Now, I thought what he said right there was right on point. First things first, churches, houses of worship, including your mosque, your synagogue, they are essential. Let's be clear. I like what he said in the beginning, talking about, or you can have your liquor store open, and might I add, you can have your weed store open. You can go to Wally World, get all kind of snacks and whatnot, damage your heart, kidneys, lungs, etc. That's fine, but you can't go to a church. That's not seen as essential. It's really weird, this whole thing of non-essential, essential. And it doesn't really add up when you look at it from a common sense perspective. You're telling me these big box corporate giants, mega giants, those are essential, but your little mom and pop shops, those aren't essential. You got to kind of operate like an underground railroad, opening your back door, selling your products. You can't cut hair. They had undercover agents bust some girls that were doing hair and nails in their house. It's like, really? Is that what we're going to do? I mean, come on, what's going on here? That is way too much, way over the top. This whole thing of essential, non-essential doesn't make any sense. And it most certainly does not make sense to try and vilify places of worship. Okay, it doesn't make sense at all. One disturbing thing that I saw, I forget exactly where it was in the country, but they had more suicide deaths than virus deaths, more drug overdose deaths than virus deaths. And these numbers are not just normal, they have risen since the shutdown, which is going to be a natural thing because if you are not able to work for months, it's been like, what, 2 months now? We're almost into June. You got Gretchen Whitmer extending the lockdown period up until June 12th. Some governors, mayors, et cetera, are talking about we don't know when we're going to open, could be anytime in the future, when we get a cure, vaccine, et cetera. They have no idea when they're going to open. People are not working during this whole time. So what's going to be the result? They're going to resort to drugs, alcohol, and overall self-destructive behavior. All right. So that is a very bad consequence of what's happening. Unemployment is rising. They're talking about for every 1 point of unemployment rise, you have 10,000 more deaths. So if you go from 3.5% unemployed to 23.5% unemployed, you're talking about 200,000 deaths. And we've already seen 40 million people officially file for unemployment, like over 2 million per week. Obviously, what we're doing right here is not the right thing. Even Anthony Fauci came out, Dr. Doom himself came out and said that the shutdowns long term aren't really the way to go. At the beginning, it was stop the spread or slow the spread, flatten the curve for 15 days. Then that became a month, 2 months, now 3, 4, 5, whenever. And throughout all of this, churches seem to kind of get ignored, or not necessarily ignored as far as being important, but targeted as being unimportant. The Democratic Party seemed to be leading the charge behind this. And I was seeing somebody talk about this, and what they said made a lot of sense. They were saying, if you just zoom out and look at the country, as far as who is more favorable to churches, having them open, not really enforcing any kind of crazy rules on them as far as social distancing and masks and whatnot, those are the red states that are just more lenient on the churches. But the blue states are really strict, giving you a ticket if you go to a drive-through church. People that had drive-through service, you're in your car, windows rolled up, but they're getting tickets for being there. How does this make any sense? A pastor in Virginia died. I think he was in Richmond area. He died, right? Black pastor. And making jokes, talking about that's what he gets. You put in your congregation in jeopardy. This is crazy. Just because you're going to be around people does not mean you're going to be in danger. All right. You should still be able to have funeral services, general everyday Sunday worship, whenever worship. People need that. Like I was saying earlier, suicide, drug overdose, those are rising. And people are looking for something to turn to. They're looking for something to believe in. They're looking for something to fulfill themselves spiritually, mentally. And they don't have it since they're not allowed to go to the church. They're not allowed to go to work. They're not allowed to go anywhere. Churches are essential. And then let's not forget, we do live in America, right? We have freedom of religion. Okay, we do have that right. As far as I know, we do have that right. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. And at a certain point, if you keep saying that you can't go to church, but you can go to the drugstore, you can go to Walmart and just gorge on honey buns, hot dogs, chicken wings, and etc., then it's like, now you violating my constitutional rights. Okay, now we got a court case. It's one thing to want the nation to be safe and to ensure the safety of the nation. I get that 100%. I understand. But then when we see evidence that the lockdowns aren't really working, the lockdowns are actually kind of detrimental. When we see stats like 66% of those that are hospitalized with the virus in New York were actually quarantining at home, did not go to work, did not go to school, they were at home. Another, 18% were inside of nursing homes. So you got 84, 85% that were actually locked down, not going outside, that have been hospitalized with the virus. When you see stuff like that, you got to think, okay, maybe this isn't really a thing that makes any sense. And once you leave New York City, you don't really have that many cases, let alone deaths. They said Florida was ridiculous and crazy and irresponsible for opening up their beaches and opening up in general, but they have lower case numbers per capita and also lower death rates than many other states that have remained to be locked down. So obviously this whole lockdown strategy is not really the best way to go. And since it's not the best way to go, since it's not some kind of just urgent emergency tragedy that requires everybody to stay home, then the stay-at-home orders have to be viewed as draconian. And if they're applied to your religion, now, like I said, you're violating civil rights. I have freedom of religion, freedom of assembly as well, and freedom of speech. All those rights right now are being trampled. They're being violated every day. And a lot of police around the nation aren't really having it. They're not even enforcing it. Like where I live, you still got some kind of guidelines and whatnot, but there's nobody enforcing it. Okay, you go to restaurants, everybody's pretty much just chilling. Like nobody's gonna go into your restaurant, mom and pop shop, and just bust you up. It's just not happening at all, not whatsoever. You go to some of the more liberal places, it's not the same way. It's much more, in your face, papers, please type situation. Now, I'm not blaming the police officers necessarily in these blue states. I'm blaming their superiors, the higher ups, the governors and mayors, politicians that live in those places that are requiring them to do it. They are just as much up under the thumb as the general public are. Where I live, the pressure ain't really there. It's pretty good. I live in the red state, thank God. Now, I couldn't be in the blue state. I could not have my liberty taken from me for no good reason. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that Trump was correct to deem churches as essential? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Or was he wrong? Do you think that Trump is going to get people killed by telling them, hey, if you want to go to church, you can? One thing that's kind of weird is that people say, oh, Trump's going to get you killed. You got to stay home. Look, if you don't want to come outside ever again in your entire life, you can just be one of the hoarders. You can jump all your trash in your house. You can never leave again. If you're able to pay your bills and whatnot and they don't kick you out, then go ahead. You can do what you want. That's your life. But other people aren't you. Just because a person may think that it's right to stay home does not mean that their thought or their opinion is how everyone else feels. I don't feel that way. I'm going to leave my house. I'm going to keep doing whatever I do. I'm outside every day and I'm just fine. I've been on planes and all that. I'm good. Okay. Now I'm not an irresponsible person in general, even before the virus. So let's not get that twisted. But at the same time, I'm not just going to be held in my home. I did not commit a crime. I've never been arrested. So there's no reason for me to be under incarceration, even if at my own home, especially not in my own home when I've done nothing wrong. Churches are essential. People really need them. All right. They are entitled to them. It's a God-given right. It's a state protected right. So the state, the police, nobody can infringe upon that right. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.